And some reaction from the papers today. In Spain, across the board, you had Marca with Barca win the 28th, AS with Barca embrace the title, Mundo like champions, and Sport saying, salute the champion right now. It is the first time Barcelona have won 4 Clásicos in a single season. This very much thought to have what has sealed Carlo Ancelotti's fate, as we welcome in Nedum, Onuoha and Mario Melchiot to talk more about what we saw at the weekend. And Nedum, what a Clásico it was. With Xabi Alonso expected to come in, let's start talking about the work he has to do with this side and where he starts.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was another great Clasico. You know, similar to the Copa del Rey final, the energy was there. You could see the sense of the two team strategies in terms of Real Madrid at times. You know, not being the team that's in control of the game, but always having a threat. And Barcelona always trying to be as aggressive as they can be, on, like with and without possession. And the high energy nature of it. It was a great game, a Clasico that we love to see. And I think from Xabi Alonso's standpoint, him coming in, I think this is really interesting because it highlights the fact that, say, for Barca, even though they have stars, their strength is the fact that they are a collective. They all stick to the plan together, whether it's going to be the high line, the high press, the sort of transitions, whatever it's going to be, they all do it together. Whereas as you watch Real Madrid at times, you're sort of relying upon the individual. I think at times you look at the way that, say, they do try and play, it seems like it's at times a little bit off the cuff. I think if you want to be a really successful team, like Real Madrid have been in years gone by, I think there has to be an element of structure around it. And I think as you look at Xabi Alonso and the success that he had in Germany with Leverkusen, like even though they had stars in that, again, it was the collective. It's how they played. It's the style of play that they had and, you know, the grit and determination and the togetherness that they had as well. So for Alonso, yes, it's a difficult job, but it's arguably the best job in world football to be able to come to Real Madrid, to be picked to go to Real Madrid and to have some of the stars he has available. I'm sure he's got a plan and I'm sure he'll find a way to be successful.
What do you think, Mario? How do Real Madrid get back on Barcelona's level?
I think the key thing is going to be what Nedum highlighted, you understand? It's also to control the tempo. I think when, for example, when you had a guy like Cruz, you understand, he could control the tempo of the game. And when you look over the weekend, the young, you understand, they were, you know, Pedri, they were controlling in the middle of the park. And I think things like this are very important. And I think the way Alonso also played football as a footballer and the way he likes his teams to be, you want to be in control. There were moments that now where Real Madrid is right now, they're not in control. It's all high energy, it almost looks. And it almost looks like, it's not like, how will I say? When Ancelotti, because look, we cannot talk bad about this because he's arguably one of the coaches that any player would have loved to play for. But I'm just saying, like, the way it is right now, it's just everything is going all over the place. And I think that is going to be one of the key things. Why? Because of the injuries, of course. Yes, we cannot, you know, forget that because key injuries, you know, Tukamani plays at the back. Camavinga is not even there. Then he plays left back. Then Mendy's out. There's too many things to think about. You know, Alaba, all those guys. So for him, I think the key thing is going to be make sure you get first focus on who is fit, what is my team like, and then set it up the way he wants to set it up and play the game the way he was good at. Control it instead of being controlled because Barcelona felt like they were being controlled instead of they were in control.
What was really, really concerning and surprising to me, Real Madrid are up 2-0, as I just mentioned. And if you didn't know any better, you would have thought it was Alavés or it was Leganés that was up 2-0 at Barcelona, and they were asking themselves, how are we up 2-0? What? We cannot keep the ball. We cannot diagnose the problem. We're not able to see a full picture. Now, you expect that from lesser players, from lesser teams, from lower tier opposition. This panicky possession, this possession that's like hot potato. No, you have it. No, you have it. No, you have it. I don't want any of this. I don't want this responsibility. That's Real Madrid we're talking about. And yet they're unable to not only diagnose the problem, but problem solve on the go. And see that the most obvious thing that was available to you was the space in behind, and they were not exploiting that. I have no idea how Real Madrid are leading the game 2-0 and allow all these things to happen. But in the context of this season and what they have been over the course of the whole year, we should not be surprised.
They've had 4 goes at it against Barcelona this year. How can Real Madrid fix this?
Well, I think we go back to being a team. At the end of the day, anybody who's successful as a football team are a unit together. And this team is absolutely the complete and utter opposite of that. Absolutely. And when you talk about, Ali's talking there about nobody getting their head up. When you don't have any confidence, that vision you have, it just comes in, the walls come in, and you can't see anything. And everybody's playing a pass to be safe. They're trying so hard not to lose the ball that the touches goes off. You don't see the pitch the same way that Barcelona see it. So every single time that ball was on and behind, they never saw it. Even at 2-0, they didn't look comfortable. And that's why they end up losing 4 and probably should have lost 7 or 8. And so the first thing you got to do is get your team together and build confidence. Forget how you set up. Forget your star guys. You've got to build a team spirit and you've got to build a team. Yeah. And if you can do that, then when you've got star players and then you've got confident players, I'll tell you what, it's a different game.
At the highest level, and these teams, we can agree, are at the highest level in club competitions, it's really difficult to process that a team like Real Madrid can be so vulnerable, 2-0 up, and Barcelona can be so powerful, 2-0 down. And that was sort of my takeaway in general from the game. I think somebody should just tell Barcelona, when they come out on the field, just put it on the board, the scoreboard, you're down 2-0.
Lamine Yamal said it, didn't he? He said, we're not even scared if they score 2 against us at this point.
Just give the other team 2 goals and we save ourselves the grief of having to go through this whole breakdown. They are a team that doesn't care if you score upon them. Other teams may get gun-shy. Other teams that they hesitate, they would get nervous. They're like, nah, we're going to get after you. And the more that Real Madrid started passing the ball sideways and back, sideways and back, sideways and back, sideways and back, then Barcelona really felt like, yeah, we're going to get after you and you have no chance.
Going forward, everybody talks about it. You understand? Rafinha, Yamal, Torres does his job too. And whenever he starts or comes on, great. But the thing for me is, at the back is always a question mark. And I don't think Real Madrid really explored that. And that's why they struggled in the game.
Well, let's talk about at the back with Barcelona, especially with all the defenders we've got on tonight, because a bit of a debate came up yesterday, Nedum, in our coverage. Steve McManaman said that Barcelona cannot win the Champions League with this defence. What do you think of a statement like that?
I don't necessarily buy into that as much, to be honest, because the way that I see it, in the same way that Ali was just talking about, say, Barcelona being 2-0 down and then being on the front foot, I think some of the issues that they have through the season comes through individual errors and not really managing the game well. And that's not necessarily something that's solely associated with the high line. We've all been the types of people that would be in a team meeting and the manager would put that up on the screen. Look, this is how high their line is. Just play it behind, just play it behind. But if it was that simple, then why is it that it hasn't consistently been done throughout the season against them? Not least of all by Real Madrid with the flying machines that they have. So I think from my perspective, if they're not to win it next year, I think it's more so to do with the nature of how they defend in terms of the individual errors, the lack of game management. Because if they had better game management, they'd probably be in the Champions League final now. Rafinha scoring that goal as late as he did in Italy in midweek, that should have been like game, set, and match. Everything should have been stopped. But instead, it's that youthful exuberance. They want to be on the front foot. They want to go and try and score another. Whereas if that was the other way around, Inter Milan would shut that game off completely. I think that's a bigger thing for me compared to the high line, because the high line is more visible and makes us all feel very, very uncomfortable when we see it.
And it is a stupid high line. You know, it's one thing to sit here and laud Barcelona about how great they are going forward, because you can't help it, because they are. They're absolutely fantastic. They've scored 21 goals in the last 8 games. I mean, that's phenomenal, right? Guess what? They've lost 19. 19 games.
That's not phenomenal.
And that's not good, in my book. And guess what? They scored 6 goals in the over 2 games in the semi-final of Champions League and didn't go through. So don't tell me it's not got to do with the high line or defensively. Yes, people make individual mistakes, but don't tell me that's got nothing to do with the way they defend, particularly with the line. It's staring them in the face. And it's one thing to have a season like this. It's one thing to be scoring all these goals and losing all these goals, and then you feel as though it doesn't matter how many we lose, we're going to win. That's kind of how they've done it, and it's fantastic to watch. Yeah. But I tell you what, when next season starts, and next season they're expected to do the same, I'm not so sure.
I think it comes down, at least in my estimation, because I don't believe Hansi Flick is going to change this. He's gone too far down, down this path.
Still Copa del Rey and La Liga title won, playing the way they have.
Okay. They got knocked out of the Champions League playing the way they had. Yeah. That's the point.
I really don't think that Hansi Flick is going to backtrack from this. He is fully committed, all in, knee deep, elbow deep into this, right? Yeah. Okay? What I'm saying is, fine, be committed to what you're doing. Don't change who you are, but have some situational awareness. And know full well that if you're up 3-2, late, with 2 minutes to go, in a Champions League semi-final, away from home, there is no need for you to be matched up 3v3 against Inter, that you need to have some numbers behind the ball, that you can be more conservative in those sort of situations. That's all I'm saying. Manage the game properly, understand that there are moments in which, you know what, we gain nothing from trying to win that ball over there. How about we get our numbers organized behind the ball? It doesn't mean that you have to do it all the time. It doesn't mean that this is the way that you're going to play. But what it does mean is that you're going to see out a game in a proper way, with numbers behind the ball, with responsible defending, not attacking players on the other side of the ball that are not helping you to defend, when the priority in that moment is to defend a lead, is to see the game out. Situational awareness. That's all I want from Barcelona.
Tell us more about this situational awareness, Mario, this game management and how defenders put this into play. Is it an experience thing?
Yeah, I think, look, the way Barcelona plays, you grow up as like the young boys, they grow up playing like this. Because I grew up playing this the way Barcelona plays, because it's similar to the way Ajax plays. You know, you play with the high line, but the only key factor is that all your players at the back have to be fast. Why? Because we have to play with 40 yards behind us, and if we drop the line maybe 20 yards, we have the goalkeeper that can help us out. But Barcelona doesn't play with the goalkeeper helping out, because they don't count on him. They count on themselves. They knowing, like, the key thing is now when the players are looking at the ball, normally you can go push the line up. But when one looks up, that's when it becomes vulnerable. And I think what Ali said and Stevie said, they're going to be tested. Of course. Why would they not? Why would you not test them? Because there are going to be moments where you're going to play against a player that might not look, but is aware of the space and knows where to drop the ball. And I think that is going to be one of the key things, because that's how, when I was, playing the similarities, I got hurt like that. Because they look up, there is always a player that is not that quick or doesn't react that quick, and the player is gone, and after a while, you're going to see it starts crumbling. So they really have to fix that. He probably has to train a lot on it and making sure that the ball is always under pressure. Because if the ball is not under pressure, it becomes very vulnerable to play that high, because you can deliver it right behind the defense.
Can it be coached, Nedum, to this team, or do they need more experience in the back line?
No, I think it can be coached. I think we're talking about, say, for example, someone like Kubasi, who's 18 years old. I think he can still improve as a player in terms of his understanding of just football and that line in itself. And, I'm with Ali more so than Steve in this instance, just because, I think it is game management at times. Hansi Flick, this is his plan. This is how he's going to play. Even Mario saying this is how Ajax play when they're younger. This is how it is. But then there's still ways to sort of navigate through games which don't involve people making, say, wilder decisions by themselves or not understanding what they need to do in a particular moment. I think the line itself, as I say, how's it not been able to be exposed across the 60 games plus they've probably played this season? You think every week it should be 2-3 goals, but it's never the case. And instead we talk about I think it was the first Clasico, we end up talking about how many times Mbappe was caught offside. For players going up against it, they've really struggled because it feels so different. Maybe in time they'll adjust, but I think that's when Flick himself will make an adjustment within that. I think for those players, they'll understand it better. And I don't know if Steve would agree with this, but I think at times players can be very guilty of taking managers really literally. And they forget that sometimes the manager kind of wants them to still play the game of football that's in front of them, because you're not really going to get dragged off if you decide in one moment to bring somebody back. Because at the end of the day, you can talk about that after the game when the result's finally gone your way, as opposed to making a decision, well, he said this on Tuesday, so I'm going to have to do it today. So I'm more with Ali, and I in some ways I enjoy watching it now, because seeing the heartbreak when these guys are found offside, I think it just makes for brilliant football.
That point he makes is particularly relevant with young players, because they do listen and hang on to every word you say, and when it goes wrong, they go, well, I'm only, in their brain are going, well, I'm only doing what the gaffer told me to do. Whereas when you've got more experienced players, they understand what the ideal situation is, but they also understand that in football, a situation arises that you have to deal with as an individual, and you have to get everybody around you and deal with it as well. So the experienced guy will understand what you're asking him, but will understand when it's possible to do it and when we shouldn't do it. The young guy just thinks, I've got to do this.
Yeah.
All the teams returned to action in La Liga in a midweek round, and if Real Madrid fail to win their game against Mallorca, then the title will already be sealed for Barcelona, who play the following day against Espanyol. If not, they just need 2 points from the games that remain, and they are La Liga title winners.